Hi, good day everyone. Today I'm going to share with you a topic entitled Framing China Image in Malaysian Mainstream Newspapers, a cross-linguistic analysis of Belt and Road Initiative coverage. So in this study, I'm going to share with you all on how different languages Malaysian mainstream newspaper portray BRI in China. As we all know, Malaysia is the first Southeast Asian country that established diplomatic relations with China, and China also being one of the Malaysia's most significant economic partner. And last year, we celebrated the 50th anniversary of diplomatic relations. So this tells the significance of the study for being the important partner for Malaysia. In the past, numerous studies have been conducted into understanding how media shape the portrayal of the China image as well as One Belt One Road Initiative, the BRI. However, there's been limitations when it comes to exploring how different languages newspapers depict China image as well as BRI because different languages newspaper they targeted different audience and because of this shared different cultural background that may have been leading it into different portrayal of China image as well as BRI. So in this study, I wish to examine how different language newspaper portray the BRI in relation to each ethnic and cultural identities intersect with media reporting. And for part of my ritual review, I'll be focusing on dialing how different language newspapers they targeted different race or those who understand the language may leading into the consequence that in portraying the different issues they may have a different portrayal. For example, like Malay newspaper. So some of the past researchers they reviewed that while Arabic Malay translation in Malaysia require adaptation to local context and national ideologies, but because of the deep-rooted connection with Arab nations, so when it comes to issue related to Arabs or maybe Arabic civilizations, the Malay newspaper tends to provide a more in-depth, content and portray compared to Chinese and Tamil newspapers. Similarly, when it comes into portraying issue related to China or India, Chinese newspaper and Tamil newspaper they provide a more detailed portrayal as compared to Malay newspapers. For example, like when it comes to China cultural practice and moral value or core value, they talk about Confucian principle and all that. So Chinese newspaper they tend to portray and tell more in depth compared to other newspapers. In Tamil newspapers, when it comes to India related or Tamil traditions, they will be have a more in-depth portrayal as compared to Malay and Chinese newspapers. So this definitely actually telling us that different newspaper with the different ideological background, they may have been leading it into a different portrayal and storyline as according to Goffman and Edmonds, framing can shape, can give meanings into telling audience how to think about in this study the BRI. So different ethnic and different population in the country, the way they understand about BRI may be different because of this. So in this study, I employ quantitative content analysis for four highest circulation newspaper in the country, being the Star, Utusan Malaysia, Harian Metro, and Sinju Daily from 2017 to 2023. And these are the total number of the articles that I have analyzed. And I have also divided them into a different segments, national segment, international segment, as well as opinion piece. And according to my content analysis, they start focusing more on international collaboration and superpower as well as Asian collaboration issues. As compared to Malay newspapers like Tusan Malaysia and Harian Metro, they tend to be focusing more on the government agenda as well as ECRL discussion being one of the very important BRI project. As in Sinju Daily for Chinese newspapers, they discuss more related to culture and education. And my Thai Square test result also show that different languages newspaper they portray BRI differently. And these are some of the data in the three languages newspapers. Firstly, Chinese newspapers, as you can see, they're focusing more on the Chinese culture inheritance and roots of the overseas Chinese. They talk about the the Chinese languages. They talk about some of the core values. Like in Mandarin, we have this 礼义廉耻, talk about the core value, the moral value, the Confucian's practices in the country. As compared to English newspaper, they focuses more on the international Asian collaborations. They touch about the Asia, Africa, Europe collaboration. They touch about the Myanmar, the East African, and so on. And sometimes also they also portray and discuss issues related to global. For example, like that issues related to BRI. For Malay newspaper, they focuses more on the East Coast Real Link projects. And they also touch about the economic context. They touch about the government agenda compared to the Star and City Daily. So for my discussions, basically it proved that different languages they did portray BRI differently. For example, like to draw a summary, Chinese newspaper focuses more on education and cultural inheritance. Malay newspaper focuses more on the government agenda, economy, as well as ECRL projects. As in comparison to the Star, like English newspaper focuses more on international news, Asian collaborations, economic development. So Malaysian multicultural society definitely is going to influence the relationship with China because different ethnic they understand BRI and China differently. And as we can see from our data, is that Malaysians are not too familiar with BRI yet. They may have heard about BRI, but they do not quite understand what it is because different races. Uh, they understand BRI based on the newspaper focus. Let's say Malay races, maybe they understand more regarding BRI in terms of economy base and some of the government projects as compared to Chinese people, maybe they are more tied to talk about cultural practice and the similarity between the ancestor as compared to other newspaper like English newspapers. We tend to look at this BRI internationally from the global point of view, the global standpoint. So it could be rather limited in a way whether we can see BRI from a diverse perspective. Uh, the different races and groups of the community in a country, they tend to understand BRI from one part only. So, as some of the scholars, they have pointed out that China is rising as one of the important superpower in in the country. So definitely, BRI collaborations would definitely benefit Malaysia in terms of economic, cultural, and educational development as well as technology. So, when it comes to Malaysian context, different prime minister they have different uh, understandings and whether they will want to further collaborate with China. For example, like our former Prime Minister Najib Razak has been very positive regarding collaborations. But when it comes to our former Prime Minister Dr. Mahathir, he's a bit hesitant and he touched more regarding the debt issues and whether we should continue the projects due to high debt and high cost for building uh, for developing the, the projects together. When it comes to our current Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim, he is also very positive and very passionate when it comes to collaborating. We can see that the visitation between two countries become very common after he is in power. So I have three suggestions in my stated in my research paper. Firstly, to strengthen more public engagement and dialogue. To make sure that different groups of the Malaysian people as well as Malaysian journalists uh, the way they understand about BRI could be from diverse perspective instead of a particular one angle and one perspective only. Lastly, I would also want to suggest to foster inter-ethnic understanding and unity, which is very important for the success of international initiative like BRI. And collaborating with China is definitely is a going to benefit Malaysia in terms of economy and technology and therefore we should look for more way on how to improve the understandings and when signing all these memorandum together for future any projects or in policy together. And thank you. That's all for my sharing. Thank you.